Alright, so you won't believe it, but I'm for once not going to say I've been waiting to make this video for a long time, because realistically, I haven't. Now, in a few updates a few months back, I was talking about a lot of stuff that legally I couldn't talk about. Well, this is one of those many things. There's still some things I can't talk about, but oh, for the love of whatever god or being or essence you believe in, I can finally talk about this. Now, for my own safety, I've obviously changed the names for some things or been very vague. But as the title says, and it seems very clickbaity, it's not. It's not. It's actually been very serious. I've been talking to a lot of my friends about it pretty much from the first incident that it happened, and it just was spiraling and getting a lot worse. And the thing is, bottom line, Cody and I still do not know whether or not we will be moving this year. This was actually a big factor in that, but we still aren't for sure, mostly for our own safety and things like that, but things have finally settled and gone to a form of normalcy, and the law's been involved and the courts have been involved, and so let's get into this. Only can happen to me story time. So, if you guys are new here, hi. My husband and I moved into our first apartment back in late 2018, right before our wedding. And I do mean right before. Like, we were getting married like 2 or 3 weeks, like, right after we moved in. But we love our apartment. We love the area. Wish it didn't cost an arm and a leg, but that's the joys of living in California. And things were going well. Things were going well for a long time, but right around November, so we'd only been living here for less than a month at the time. What ended up happening was our sink, the pipe pretty much exploded one day. The sink in our kitchen exploded. It was the middle of the night. We didn't know what to do. This is also, again, the first time either of us have lived in apartments. We both lived in houses our whole lives. And the reason I bring this up is because my husband is very much a handyman. He's very much a fixer-upper. And, you know, for him, he's like, oh, it'll be easy. I'll go run to, a 24-hour hardware store, which we do have around here. So I'll go get a pipe and I'll fix this, no problem. But I informed him because my mother informed me. My mother works in real estate. She told me how, hey, listen, Michelle, you need to be very careful with this sort of stuff. If you do things without calling a maintenance person or calling management, you could be held liable for it. So I told Cody this, and he was very confused because to him it didn't make any logical sense, and to many people who live in apartments, it fucking doesn't. But it's just how things work. So we called our management, who for this story I'm going to call management. I'm not going to name them. But management was very helpful, very friendly. The management actually lived on the premises, and we got to know them very well, and they were very, very understanding, very, very handy, very sweet, and very funny. So what ended up happening was management got back right away, so we were on the emergency list, and that, like, first thing in the morning, a repair person's going to come through, and I'm going to call this repair person Creep, and there's going to be a reason for it. So Creep equals repair person. Got that? All right, let's go. So I woke up the next day, and I waited for Creep, and Creep, we were told he was going to show up in the beginning. And I think it's fine giving away gender of Creep. I mean, Creep is now in jail, so it doesn't fucking matter, but let's get on to that. So Creep did not show up in the morning like they had said. I had texted management, and I was like, hey, it's now like 2 or 3 o'clock at the time. I don't remember. I do have the text messages because those had to go to court because that's lovely. And the only reason I'm talking about it now because things are finally settled. But management was very confused, very upset, and not with me, but with Creep. And so shortly after that went out, right around, like I said, around 2 or 3 o'clock, Creep showed up. And by showed up, he just walked into my apartment. Now, I have 2 doors. I have a gated door and a hard door. Both doors have multiple locks, and I like living from where I used to live. I like having airflow through my house. Apartment. I consider it a house, but whatever. I like having airflow. I like having my windows open. I like having my doors open. It's good for my animals. It's good for just, all around morale, especially for someone who works from home. You want to bring in that sweet heavenly light and that nice soft breeze. So what ended up happening was even though I was at my desk, which is by my door, Creep just kind of walked in, which I was very, very surprised at because there was no, hi, maintenance, hi, I'm here, hurry, I'm sorry I'm late. Just walked into my apartment, and it's not because I didn't lock the door, it's because Creep had a key. So I was very taken aback for this, and I was by myself, so I was very uncomfortable, very shy. But I've also, again, like I said, I've never lived in apartments. I didn't know this was not normal. So, Creep came. Creep then looked at my sink, turned to me and said, hey, it's gonna take a minute. I have to go to my car to get some piping. I was like, oh, okay, no big deal. I assumed it wasn't going to take long. It took 3 fucking hours. Creep just left for 3 hours. I was calling management. I actually walked over to management and I was like, hey, it's been a couple hours. It's been an hour or so at the time, and Creep never came back. Management was very upset. It wasn't upset that I was being a nag, because that was another thing. I was like, God, I hope to God I'm not being a nag, but this doesn't make sense. This logically does not make sense. So Creep shows back up 3 hours later with some pipe and doesn't say anything. Doesn't apologize. Doesn't, make a joke. Just lets himself back into my apartment. I made sure to lock all the doors this time because now it was dark, but just walked into my apartment, started working away, and then left just like that. Didn't say anything, nothing, and my sink was fixed. So I tried to be the benefit of the doubt. I do try to be the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, maybe Creep had a long day. Maybe something happened, blah, 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 blah. Later found out it was all bullshit. Creep was just a creep. So, that was it so far for Creep. Well, a few months later, or maybe it was even a month later, I'm not quite sure. This was, again, it was a year ago. But this was over the course of, many months. So, the same sink started leaking. It started leaking again. So I messaged management. Management said, hey, Creep will be there, sometime on whatever the text message said, like Wednesday or Thursday again. So Cody, my husband, actually took off of work because I told him how uncomfortable I was. So Cody took off of work to sit there and wait for Creep to show up. Creep never showed up that Wednesday. Didn't. Called management. Management apologized. Management was angry that Creep didn't show up and Creep wasn't doing the damn job. So that was that. We didn't know what to do, so we just didn't use our sink. So a few days later, what ended up happening was I wasn't feeling so well, so I ended up sleeping on my couch, which is in my living room, which my apartment isn't that big, so it's the only other room in, the frickin' house. So, which shouldn't matter, but it does for this story. So, I woke up from one day, and I went to the sink, and I kind of just, in a stupor, used the sink, and I remember being like, oh, shit. It's gonna leak. I totally forgot. So I checked to make sure, and I go put a towel down there, but it wasn't leaking anymore. It just suddenly stopped out of nowhere. And I remember being like, that's odd, but I didn't think much of it. So we're going to skip to about a month or so later. What ended up happening was I needed to deliver something to management. I'm not quite sure what it was, but I had to talk to my management one-on-one, and I had to get a reply. No, I remember now. We had gotten our gates, because I live in a gated complex, because I live in a city, so we got our gate keys switched out, because they had to fix the gates. So I was getting my new key, so I traded in my old key, and that's when management pretty much came to me and was like, hey, I need you to write me a letter and attach the photos of our screen cap conversations from the text messages about Creep. And I remember being like, okay, why? Is everything okay? And management's like, no, things are not okay. And management sat me down and told me that there have been because the thing about my complex too is we're kind of 50-50 of young people and old people, and a lot of us don't interact. It's a very quiet complex. We keep to ourselves. Every now and then we'll wave or something, or help each other out if we're seeing someone, go in and out. But we don't hang out. We're not best bros. I mean, I'm really good bros with some new people, but that's gonna come in later. That's a lot of stuff I've been having to wait to talk about. So let's get into it. So management sits me down, and management informs me that I need to check my apartment if anything's missing. This was very surprising for me because I work from home, and I'm like, no, that's impossible. I work from home. I hardly ever leave. And that's when manager brought up, it's like, well, did your sink ever get fixed? And I was like, oh yeah, it just suddenly like stopped, leaking. And management then informed me that there were now reports of creep breaking into people's houses and stealing their shit. This is not an exaggeration. It was really bad. And some of the older residents, the more paranoid residents, actually set up cameras in their house for when they left for work, because not everybody can work from home. And they sent management video of that where there was no reason for creep to be in their apartment. They had not called maintenance. They had not done anything. There was no reason, but creep was coming in, digging through their stuff, eating their food, like using their beds, and a lot of really disturbing, violating, illegal stuff. Management then showed me some of the home videos and was like, we need to do this because we have to get the police involved. We have to, get this very seriously because, creep is stealing from people and breaking into things. So when I went home, I'm already a paranoid, anxious mess, if you guys didn't know. My friends, Morgan and Maddie, when they came to visit me, saw me have like a mild freak out moment when I thought I lost my keys. So it sucks. So I was now in a paranoid mess, and I went ripping through my apartment to see if the few expensive belongings we owned were still there. And they still were. They still were. But I later found out that creep would not want to come in on the people's time. Creep wanted to come in on his own time. So I later found out that he filed to have my sink fixed. So in the time period that I was asleep on my couch, this man came into my apartment, walked in, fixed my sink, and then left. And it's very violating because here's a fun fact about me. When I'm not feeling well, I kind of like to sleep naked. And I know that's very TMI, but I should be able to sleep naked in the place that I live in my own apartment that I pay here to live. So I felt extremely violated. This isn't the first time something like this, not in the same context, but something like this has happened to me where I felt violated. It's not a nice feeling. It's not. And then I had later found out that a few other people in my complex, and this isn't a jab at them or me, so keep that in mind, but they are more of the generic, conventionally beautiful California girls that live in these complexes. And my management was telling me how creep had broken into specifically their apartments multiple times, and management was now very concerned for people's safety. I typed up my letter, I submitted the screenshots, I had to file a police report, I had to go to court, so did a lot of other people in the complex. There were over 30 complaints of either stuff missing, of creep breaking into their apartment without them asking, and 2 cases of creep breaking into their complex when they were showering, and there was no reason for creep to fucking be there. But he had keys to all of our apartments. We don't know why he had keys. I don't know if that is commonplace in apartments, but everybody was scared, and people, when this was coming out, when this was getting really bad, people were mass exodusly moving and leaving. I talked about this very frankly in my vlogs when I was vlogging semi-recently, back in early-ish 2019, because people were like, fuck this, I'm paying all this rent, and I can't even feel safe in my own apartment because this creep has keys to our apartments. Our apartment complex has video cameras inside of it, so creep can see when people come and go, because they're also pretty small apartments, so not a lot of people live here. A lot of people are like singles, couples, or like one roommate kind of situations. There are a couple of kids that live in the complex, but not a lot, and I hardly see them. So you think that would be where it ends. Oh, it does not. It does not. So we were trying to get a court case against this, and for some reason, we don't know for sure, and it's never been confirmed, but all of us started to believe that the owner of the complex, the actual owner, not management, but the owner of the complex, knew creep. Because creep was the only repair person, and they somehow kept coming back and not somehow getting fired and losing their job. And there was an incident where Creep actually did go to jail for a couple days because Creep ended up walking in and watching somebody shower. Just walked on into their apartment and watched them fucking shower. So that person, rightly pressed charges. From what I know, the charges were dropped, but it did go to the overall lawsuit case that happened, which is also why I couldn't talk about this, because there was a lawsuit. So this happened, things started getting tighter around here, and things were only getting worse. Creep was getting creepier, the break-ins were getting worse. My neighbors had just moved in. This is another thing that happened, right? So this is, again, very important. So what ended up happening was my neighbors had moved in, and right after they moved in, their window had popped out. Now, they live on a higher floor than me, and it was very, very dangerous that their window popped out. If something had happened to one of their pets, to one of them, because their bed is right against the window, it's higher than a normal 3-story because we're kind of elevated already, but it's over a 3-story fall. That is very serious and very dangerous. They called management. They had just moved in, and management called repair person, called Creep. Creep didn't show up when Creep was supposed to. Creep just did the same shit that Creep did with me, where he just, because my friend also works from home, fucking just walked into her apartment. She was like, what the fuck is this? Because I wasn't there, but this is, again, secondhand from what she told me. And he was like, oh, I hear you have an issue, something, blah, blah, blah. He apparently gave her a lot of fucking attitude. Because he was irritated because of all the shit that's been happening to him. When if you stop being a fucking creep, this wouldn't be happening to you, asshole. So, can you tell I'm angry? Because I'm angry. So, went through. My friend had little plants on her windowsill. I found about this recently. Instead of, being a normal person and being like, can you please move this or may I move this? Apparently, he full on just took his hand and just threw her plants off her windowsill, getting her carpet dirty, full of dirt, getting her bed full of dirt. She was surprised, started taking video and pictures, and Creep didn't like that. Creep was very angry and upset and saying you couldn't fucking film him and all this stupid shit. And my friend sent it to management. Management sent it to the owner of the complex and put it more in that police report, that other one that we were dealing with. So people are now mass moving out. Creep is getting more aggressive and scary. There have been now more break-ins and thefts than before. More people have now had to buy personal security cameras. And 2 people got kicked out for breaking their lease for attaching personal locks to their doors. Because Cody thought about that too. Cody's like, fuck that. We're going to go get a deadbolt because, no, I'm not letting this fucker in my house. And while deadbolts don't stop people all the time, there are lots of ways to break through them. I mean, there's videos all about it. But it'll be enough that if I'm working from home and I put the fucking deadbolt on, I'm going to hear them fucking try to open the door instead of them just, come on in. So, we found out we couldn't do that because that would be somehow breaking our lease because it's a safety reason that management can't get into the apartment if there is an emergency. So, while management was pissed off about this, 2 people ended up getting kicked out for attaching deadbolts to their doors. And they only got kicked out because Creep tried breaking into their apartments. So they were a part of the lawsuit too. It was very, very fucking irritating and a terrible time. And it was adding to all of my stress. And you have no idea how much I wanted to vent about this online. Because venting about it online, boy, it makes me feel better. It really, really does. So, you think I'd be getting close here because we're already about 18 minutes in. But we're not. Oh, baby, we are not. No, we're not. So, we now can't put a lock on our door. We know that this person can now come in whenever the fuck they want. Things are being stolen. And now he's getting aggressive. And we also know that he, in some way, shape, or form, knows the owner of the complex, and the owner of the complex has money, which is how this fucker can keep getting out of jail and getting through things. So, needless to say, we weren't feeling safe in our own apartment. So we were looking for places to move to, we were looking for things to do, and we were like, great, we can't afford any of this stuff, what are we going to do? And it was one of those situations where we're like, we don't know if we can leave. Like, we can't afford much else. So, what ended up happening, and how the lawsuit happened. So, there was a big meeting again, I would say probably a month or so later after the aggressive stuff started happening. So this was either, I believe it was middle of summer or right towards the end of, or the start of fall. No, it was right towards the start of fall because this happened. I remember now. This happened when I got back from San Japan. So it was right around September-ish time. So what ended up happening was, so this has been a whole year. A whole year this is pretty much going on at this point. So September rolls around and we get a meeting from management. Management calls like a little meeting. And management informs us like, hi, Creep got arrested again for breaking and entering again. And we later found out that what happened was one of the conventionally attractive girls in my complex, who did live alone, so she felt very scared, asked her boyfriend, was telling her boyfriend about all this. This is all what we were told, because I don't know this person. Told her boyfriend about what was going on, and her boyfriend, to make her feel better, because the boyfriend originally thought she was kind of being paranoid and making it up. I know this because it's what was in the fucking lawsuit and the police report. So what ended up happening was the boyfriend pretty much went to a pretty girl and was like, hey, why don't we switch apartments for the weekend? Just the weekend. You know, I'll prove to you that there's nothing to worry about. And that, you know, the maintenance person isn't fucking breaking into apartments. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So she felt good. Now, boyfriend did not tell anybody about this switch. They don't fucking have to. It's your own goddamn apartment. You can do almost whatever you want to it. So, Creep broke in when there was no reason to. They did not call maintenance. They did not text maintenance. There was no reason for Creep to use their power to come into this fucking single girl's apartment. And so boyfriend was a bodybuilder, and boyfriend beat the fuck out of Creep. And I know some people are super against that, but no. When I found that out and he was beaten to a bloody pulp, they were now suing the owner of the complex because they knew management wasn't involved, because management was on record filing police report upon police report, doing everything legally in their power to get this fucker out of our complex. Everything. So, now there's a lawsuit involved. And I was a part of it because I was a victim. The other 30 tenants who have proof that he had broken into their apartment without asking, and or stealing shit from them, or having video camera footage from their own apartment. You shouldn't have to have video cameras in your own goddamn apartment that you're living in. You know, same with the people who ended up getting kicked out for putting on Deadbolt. They were also a part of it. So it was a big thing. Didn't get any money. Just keep that in mind, though. So this wasn't like a money thing. We literally just wanted this fucker out of our complex. We wanted him in jail. Okay? And so I only went to court technically once, and I'm not going to talk about that incident, but I just did my quick little say because I wasn't as big of a victim as the other people were. And then we were pretty much told, like, all right, we gotta, now we gotta play the waiting game. Well, sadly, my management ended up getting fired, and they got fired for being a part of the lawsuit and for filing the police reports and pretty much doing their job. So that really sucked. We really, really liked management. And then for the longest time, we didn't have in-house management. But Creep was now in jail. I only found out about that recently, which is why I'm doing the audio now, because no one wanted to fucking call maintenance. Which sucks, because I had 3 outlets break in my apartment. Like I said, my apartment's really small. But I was like, no, I don't want them to come in here. I'm not comfortable with them coming in here. Well, they started doing a lot of stuff pretty much right after my management lost their job. They started doing a lot of stuff to the complex. They started, like, a lot of people were coming through, a lot of people were looking through. A lot of people were getting nervous they were going to sell the complex. Like, the owner sold it, and then we all kind of, like, were fucked, and we're like, oh, great, now we definitely have to find places to live. That wasn't the case. But a new company is now owner of the complex. Excuse me. So I'm pretty sure either the owner sold it or teamed up with a company or something, but it's not a single person anymore, which I'm all for. So, because I've never met the owner of the complex. I thought I did once. I just kind of saw them outside, but wasn't them. It was just repair people and what's the word? An inspector. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what ended up happening. I don't know what happened with the lawsuit, but I'm assuming it went well because now we're under and we now have a new management manager, which I don't know. I don't know the new management, so I have to like meet them. But things have been up to date. They've been really on point with things. I finally called in about my outlets, and a new repair person came out, and I was given a time frame, and they came within that time frame. They knocked. They were very polite. They, shook my hand. They gave us their name, their extension. They fixed our shit, and they fucking left, and it was beautiful. And it felt great. It felt really great, and now we know that we have a new manager, and things are coming around, and we still aren't sure if we're going to be moving in October or not. It's going to literally be like a touch and go scenario. But now we can like actually breathe and feel safe in our own home. I haven't left my apartment a lot because I've been really paranoid about coming back and finding someone I don't know in my fucking apartment. And it's really violating to know that even if I lock the doors, there's no point because they have a fucking key. And I know I've been cursing a lot, I've been swearing a lot in this video, but I'm angry. This is a very angry situation. This isn't a fun situation, and there isn't much I could say that I've learned from it. I usually like in these stories to be like, oh yeah, well you can take this from that, you can take that from that, because we were finally in a situation where it's like, what can we do? We can't move. That takes months of time and money that we don't have, so it's not as if we can just like, fuck this, yeet, And there were legal proceedings involved. So we couldn't rush things. We couldn't do a lot of things. We couldn't talk about a lot of things because legal stuff was involved. A lawsuit was involved. Police departments were involved. I had to take statements. I had to, send in timestamps and stuff. I had to be sworn under oath. And it was a very, very stressful time. And I'm so happy that chapter is just closed. But it definitely did not add at all the salt I needed to the year that was 2019. So that's the end of the story time. My old maintenance person was a fucking creep and is now in prison, and I am very happy. I don't know how long for, but I know that they're in prison and money can't just take them out of it this time. I know that we now have a new manager, so I'm hoping the new manager is nice. The new repair person actually does their damn job. And yeah, all right. That's it. Thanks always for my Patreon patrons for helping support this video. If you want to be a Patreon, please, my link is down below. You get artwork, notes, info here first before anybody else. And the GoFundMe for funding my new computer is still up if you guys want to help with that. Again, you do not have to, but all of it is very nice and helpful and appreciated. That is also linked down below, as well as my other social medias in my link tree. And as always, guys, I will see you next time. Bye.